Have you ever watched an event, movie, or television show and thought to yourself, if it was me, I would have done X or Y? Well, this is my Monday morning quarterbacking turned into action. Hello, folks. Jonathan here, and welcome back to Deadset Anime. I know that it's been a while, but I have been busy with family life and moving into a new home. As such, my internet was touchy because the home that I bought is a 100-year-old remodel. But that's neither here nor there. I'm up and running for now, and it's time to start grinding once more. Today, I'm going to be discussing surfacing. As part of my production workflow, I generally steer away from textures. I use them only when necessary because they create a lot of overhead when rendering. And when you're a one-man show like myself, just getting started out, time is of the essence. If anything's over 2 minutes per frame, then it's not worth me rendering, especially when I have 18,000 frames to render within 2 weeks. Or within a week, actually, because my production goals are a semi-weekly release of 15 minutes of animation, polished with voiceovers and music. Also, since I'm a celshader, texturing isn't something that I focus on as much as someone who does GI rendering. So let's get started. First, I'm going to try to do this video extemporaneously. I don't generally like creating videos like this because of my tendency to ramble and make a lot of unwanted noises like sniffing or clearing my throat. Yeah, I do that a lot. As such, I'll do my best to edit those sounds out. This is Deadset as you have not seen him. He is missing his helmet, so this is the first time that I am showing his face. The afro is just an orb with random two-sided polygons. The 12 o'clock shadow is a bunch of 2-point polygons around his jaw. My goal with Deadset, or D as he is called in narrative, my goal was to make him both ageless and weathered. Granted, he has hyper healing and his youthful vitality, but it must be augmented by many years of hardship. I mean, the guy is over 300 years old, so there will be some weathering taking place no matter what his healing factor is. Now, I was going to do a step-by-step as to how I surface. However, working with surface is too much for my lizard brain while I'm trying to record. So the surfaces are already done, so I'll just offer an explanation of what I did to achieve the effects that I have. Okay, what you were looking at is his skin, and I'm only going to focus on the skin because I used the very same method to surface all parts of the model and all of my characters in general. So this is the VPR view, and the first thing you notice is, of course, his color. There's cross-hatching, and with the cross-hatching, as you can see around the nose and along the cheek, it is along an incidence angle. So therefore, it can counterpoint the shadow. Around his lips, I used weight maps. I have a weight map around the outside to outline his lips so that I won't have to use edge tracing, which doesn't look very good on a male character. And I also used another weight map that was gradated from the inside of the mouth out. And that way you get this nice gradient color going from the inner lip to the outer lip and out to the rest of the skin. The first thing that I do in general is that I set the lights. I like for the lights to be held in sharp relief, and so therefore I will use 2 lights per character, and I will put them in sharp relief because you get much better contrast between the cells when you do it that way. At least I do, and I like the effect. But there are other reasons that I'm going to discuss later why I do it this way. Since I use mostly geometry to get my details, having things in relief gives me the nice comic booky effect that I want. The next thing that I do is that I set the base color, and what I would generally do is I will break up the base color with a gradient. And this is because Modern comic books use Photoshop, and therefore I'm not a big fan of the flat colors of old comic books. I like the new technology and what is done to enhance imagery. The next thing I do is I create my soft edge. The texture node is the meat and potatoes of my surface. This is where all of the cross-hatching, the gradients, and the colorization of all the gradients, such as the discoloration from the lips on out, will take place. The bottom layer is a gradient around the eyes because as many of us age, we get discoloration around our eyes. So this helps in making him appear aged and a little weathered. The next layer is the outline of the lips, and this is also a weighted gradient. And basically I put this here to have a color barrier between the main skin and the lips without having to use a hard edge. The layer above that is the lip color layer, and that's where you get the pinkness into the dark brown as the color flows from the inside of the mouth to the outer lips. After that, we have a simple black layer, and this is just the color of my edges for the cross hatching along the incidence angle. Above that is an alpha and a gradient, and of course the alpha is basically a line texture that I created using 2-point polygons, duplicated and jittered. And then above that is the gradient, which is what keeps the cross-hatching from covering the whole face. And one more thing we need to remove is the normal map. And the normal map I use just to add subtle scarring. You can barely see it, but there's a scar under his eye, and there's some imperfections taking place between the eyes. This also helps him look more weathered than aged. Furthermore, it breaks up the softness between the cells, so therefore there's a bit of jaggedness between the shadow side of the cell and the light side of the cell. And next we have the lip bump map. Now you can see how much younger the character appears without all of those extra layers of image detail. One of the things I really like about this technique is the flexibility that I get. One of the things that I enjoy doing and that I find incredibly useful is going to my base color, and since the shadow cell is always opposite of the light because of the vectored angle along the incidence line, it allows me to just highlight one part of his face. Say like if there's an explosion or a bright light in his face, it's just a matter of coming in, changing the color, or just lightening what's already there, setting it to step, or I can just leave it at gradient. I mean, there's lots of interesting things that I could do with this, but the effect is definitely profound and luminous, as you can see here. I use this same technique for the image that's on my desktop, as you can see with the Batman and his damsel in distress, the explosion behind him, and the light that's reflecting off of the left side of his uniform. Yes, this is precisely what I did to achieve that effect. And it doesn't cost any processing power. It's not like I'm trying to use a volumetric light, which uses a lot of processing power and can greatly increase the length of your renders per frame. Now we're going to go ahead and turn everything back on, and we'll do some rendering.